Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We'll wait for 2-3 minutes, then we'll begin. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So we have to cover this but small section of 1857, and thereafter we have nationalism. So we have to cover Government of India Act 1858, the impact generally of this event. Thereafter, we'll go into the concept of what do you mean by nationalism. We call it pre-INC bodies. Then the Indian National Congress. Then moderates. We enter moderates, and we'll also discuss economic nationalism. So we'll do the safety valve theory and everything today. So now we are truly into the nationalistic zone. So 1857, Government of India 1858, impact of 1857, nationalism, pre-INC bodies, INC, economic nationalism, moderates. This is the basic agenda for today, and by tomorrow we should be able to go till Surat split, which is that we'll do the partition of Bengal, Curzon, and thereafter Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement tomorrow, and we'll do the moderate extremist split by end of class, and we'll do mains previous year questions tomorrow specifically. So this is the basic agenda for today, and we'll discuss the concept of nationalism. What is nationalism in that regard? You can read 8th and 12th class NCERT for 1857 if you want to. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'll wait 1 more minute and then we'll begin. The last thing which we did yesterday was White Mutiny, the concept that there were two forces within the East India Company, one called the Royal British Army and the other called European forces. European forces were given more money and Royal British Army wasn't. So when the crown rule will start, both armies will be merged. So the white Europeans are going to rebel against the British. Therefore, literally the White Mutiny. Okay. Right. So, the revolt has happened, and there are consequences because of the revolt. Bhatta means allowance. So when we talk about the revolt being happening, so between May of 1857 and September of 1857, the British get a rude shock. The rude shock is that they were never able to understand the Indian subcontinent. The Orientalist project was just a waste of time. And now we need to change our approach. So when we talk about the impact of this event, there are three very simple consequences. First is that East India Company is now considered incapable of managing India. Close to more than 10,000 Europeans are dead, and this in itself was a very big news. Further, now the Parliament will take over via Government of India Act 1858. And last but not the least is the concept of what we call as Queen's Proclamation or Victoria's Proclamation. Victoria is the Queen. Queen's Proclamation or Victoria Proclamation. Why is it that we considered Queen's Proclamation important? Because in a way, this is the British show how they perceived the 1857. Basically, all of Queen's proclamations are in a way reasons for the revolt of 1857. So when Victoria will give the proclamation, she will very simply say on 1st November 1858 that I proclaim the following now that the crown controls India. Now that the crown controls India. And the proclamation are very simple and very straightforward. No state should be annexed. So this basically shows the political reasons for the revolt of 1857. Think of them as British telling us how did they see it as a event. So political reasons, we will not annex any state. So basically the concept of princely states comes into rise, that we will, whatever was annexed. Now we will not touch anybody. You will be there as princely states. I will discuss paramountcy with you later, but it's about the princely states being there. No intervention into religious matter. So it's the social, which is fear. EIC means East India Company, not ECI. That is Election Commission of India. Fear of conversion. Thereafter, no religious conversion by force. So again, adds to the social. Thereafter, no discrimination in the army. And though she was not called Empress of India in 1858, there will be a Darbar, Calcutta Darbar, in which she will be claimed with. So people tend to think that she was called Empress, Emperor of India, rather Empress when she is a female. She's not called the Empress now, but a little bit later. But this is the proclamation. This is the proclamation. What matters to us is the act, because that is what fundamentally changes everything. So Victoria's proclamation in that regard is just them saying that now that the crown controls India, not the East India Company, this is our resolve. This is our resolve. So very simply, let us talk about the Government of India Act 1858. Can we do this? Because Victoria's proclamation is just a obligation, just a random statement she's giving. We need to see what fundamentally changes with regards to the East India Company, or rather what we say as British rule in India. So can we begin our analysis? Yes? Okay. So to do that, we have to see that on 1858, what is the structure of the East India Company? So as on 1858, what is the structure? The structure I have already given it to you is there is a board of control, there is a court of directors. They sit in England. Thereafter, I am recapping. I know I have written 1857. So just 1 year before the change comes, the Board of Control and Court of Directors operate in India via the Governor General of India, who then operates via the Governor, and the Governor of Madras, Bengal, and Bombay. And he has his own executive council and his legislative council. This is the basic structure. Yes or no? Law member is now part of the legislative council. So very simply, Board of Control used to manage all administrative functions. The Court of Directors used to manage all commercial functions. This is the basic structure. This is in England. This is in India. This is what we did. Government, the Charter Act 1853. This is where we stopped. Right? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Now, the Government of India Act 1858 changes everything. But fundamentally not in India, but actually in England. So what happens is that the Board of Control and Court of Directors both are abolished. And now there will be a person called the Secretary of State for India. He will be helped by 15 members. Together, this will be a new ministry called India House. The Secretary of State for India is basically a cabinet minister. And this is a new ministry. So the India House was the first major change in England. If he is a cabinet minister, he is responsible to whom? If he is a cabinet minister, he is responsible to whom? The parliament via the prime minister. Basically, he is technically an executive. So he becomes answerable to the prime minister and then basically to the parliament. So now there is basic parliamentary accountability, and in a way, the crown has fully taken over. The crown has fully and truly taken over. Now in India, only one thing changes, is that there's a new title which is attached to the designation of Governor General. He becomes Governor General and Viceroy of India. This is the same person. And he will have his executive council. He will have his legislative council. That way, nothing really changes. And the three governors still remain. Now, why is there a need for Viceroy? See, because the Governor General now operates in the name of the Parliament, basically in the name of the Queen. He is a representative of the royalty. So, Vice Royalty or Viceroy. Now, this is the structure This is the structure through which now India is going to be controlled. The East India Company has been removed. Board of Control and Court of Directors have no control. The Secretary of State for India plus his 15 members, called the India House, is now going to direct and give orders to the Governor General and Viceroy of India. He will then give the orders to governors of the provinces. He has his own executive council and his legislative council. So now there are 3-4 very important things. Governor of Bengal, first Governor General of Bengal, first Governor General of India, and first Governor General and Viceroy. Very basic question. This is Robert Clive. This is Hastings. This is Bentinck. And this is Lord Canning. So very simply, Canning is the one who gets the first time this concept of, he's still called Governor General, but it's called Governor General and Viceroy. Because in the books you will see that even as late as in the Government of India Act 1935, they say Governor General. They say Governor General because the title is Governor General and Viceroy in India. So very simply, East India Company control is gone. Viceroy means he's a representative of the royalty. So viceroyalty. So viceroy. So very simply, the structure is not difficult. You have the queen. She basically controls the prime minister, but it's parliamentary democracy. It's the other way around. The Prime Minister has in his cabinet the Secretary of State for India. He then operates via the Governor General and Viceroy of India, who then operates with the governors. So, in a way, this person, this much part is in India, that part is in England. So, in a way, everything is happening in the name of the royal. So, basically, Viceroy. Right? So, very simply, the concept is very straightforward. The Board of Control, Court of Directors dissolved. East India Company is now perceived incapable. 10,000 Europeans dead. So now there is no point in with regards to give them power. And now the parliament actually takes power in its own hand. Yes, Governor General and Viceroy is the same person only. So on 2nd August 1858, the Act for the Better Government of India, the Government of India Act 1858 was passed. The Crown was now empowered to appoint a Governor General of India and the governors of provinces and presidencies itself. Because the Queen's proclamation says that now India comes under the Queen, the title of Viceroy, Crown's personal representative, is added to the Governor General of India. And now the supreme executive and legislative authority in India is Governor General and Viceroy. At the same point of time, the previously the power was yielded by the Board of Control and Court of Directors. Both are dissolved, are abolished, and now the Secretary of State for India with 15 members are created. This new ministry is called the India House, and he's a cabinet minister rank officer. Thereafter, this cabinet minister, the Secretary of State for India, is now going to control everything, and he will represent the parliament vis-a-vis how India was managed. And now the civil services, which was the ICS, which was previously reporting to the Board of Control and Court of Directors, they will report to the Secretary of State. And now the Indian civil services will be based on open competition, but that competition will be now sponsored by the parliament. So the simple point of the matter is that we previously had this structure: Board of Control, Court of Directors, dual control in England. Then we had Governor General of India, Governor of Madras, Bengal, Bombay, and then India. And thereafter, you have Secretary of State for India plus 15 members, wherein you have Executive Council, Legislative Council. Nothing really changes in India, but just a small addition, Viceroy. The main change happens in England, wherein now India is not controlled by a company, but by the British government itself. Right? What happened to joint stock company? East India Company still exists. The irony of the story is till today an Indian owns the East India Company. But yeah, the company now ceases to be anything. Now the East India Company is not involved in administering India in that regard. Right? Clear, everybody? Come on, a lot of you have joined very late for some reason, but I presume that you are confident in this area. That is why you're joining late. Okay. So very simply, please keep this snapshot in your mind, because I will keep on changing it from time to time. We have discussed 1858. Now our major change is going to be tomorrow, when we'll talk about, or tomorrow or Monday, when we'll talk about Indian Council Act 1861. 61, 62, we will discuss. As of right now, I have discussed the impact of the revolt of 1857, which is Victoria's Proclamation, the Government of India 1858, and East India Company losing all control over India. Right? Okay. How give control to British Parliament? The British said enough is enough. The Parliament said enough is 10,000 people are dead. Then 10,000 people are dead. Then how can you be so irresponsible that you did not understand? Basically, East India Company was seen as the reason why revolt of 1857 happened. So they very simply said, give us the control of India. See, technically, if you look at it, India, nothing really changes. Canning was the last Governor General of India and the first Governor General of India and Viceroy. So he just randomly was sitting one day and tomorrow he was called Governor General and Viceroy. That's it. It's all titles. His designation changed, but the profile remained the same. So don't think that they recalled everybody back and said, okay, we will have a meeting, we will see now. No, nothing. In India, nothing really changes. In India, just the designations change. East India Company now is a company, trades, but has nothing really to show for it. As I said, East India Company till today exists. As of in 2023, there is an East India Company. An Indian controls it. That is the irony of the story. As it is, we have a Indian Prime Minister now, so anything can happen. So the simple point of the matter, East India Company has no control over India. Now we call it the Crown Rule phase. The Crown Rule phase, which is 1858 to 1947. Company rule is over. 100 years of company rule are over. Clear, everyone? Perfect, Shreya. Thank you. Okay. Open competition already in 1853 it had happened. But now the open competition will happen under the king or under the queen. Okay. East India Crown told ECSC that you do your business. Yes. They said go. You don't control India. East India Company has no, see, try to understand this. When the government gets involved, then what can a private company actually do? Basically, the charter was cancelled. Think of it like that. The charter was cancelled. What was the company doing after 1857? Trading. See, don't get attached to the East India Company. They have not done anything good to us. Whatever happened to them, I really don't care. The simple point of the matter is you are asking me emotional questions. So, where did company go? How did they get their salaries? Doesn't matter. Let them die. The point of the matter is now Crown rule is in India. So don't, the emotional attachment, 100 years of attachment to company is making you ask me this question. What about the company? How did the board of control members pay salary? How did their family survive? I don't care. They died, all of them. Should have already died. That's not the point. Simple point of the matter is, when I say crown rule in India, now you understand what it means. That now the crown controls India via the Secretary of State for India, who's a cabinet minister in the British Parliament. If this is clear, then I would like to transition to what now really matters to us, which is the concept of pre-INC, INC moderates. Where did the company first rule in 1757? Abhay, we are going forward and you are going backwards. 1757 is what? Why is that date? Come on. Plassey. Where is Plassey? Plassey, Buxar, whatever you want to say. That Bengal. So I presume that you know Plassey, Buxar, that 1757 you know. Okay. Now, one small change which they did in the army, so as to make sure that no 1857 would be repeated, was that first they increased the number of Europeans. So previously, when it used to be 1:5, meaning one European officer over 5 Indian officers or Indian soldiers, now it became 1:2 and 2:5 in Bengal and Madras. So basically, the number of officers were increased. The older policy of having no Indian into the officers, what we call as rank, was followed. All sensitive positions given to Europeans. European troops were again put into all geographical locations which were important. Caste-based battalions come through, wherein again they try to make it homogeneous, and no newspaper, journal, or nationalistic publication was allowed within the soldiers or soldiers' barracks. Basically, they can't read anything. So this was basically to safeguard the interest and prevent another 1857. So very simply, when there used to be one European officer over 5 soldiers, now there's one European officer over 2 soldiers, Indian soldiers, and 2 officers over 5 soldiers in Madras and Bombay. That's it. So before I enter into this zone, simple. We have now finished company rule, and we are entering crown rule. Generally, anybody has any problem? Was there no human rights of Indians? Vivek, you know the answer to this question. Tell me. There's no issue? Generally no issue, right? That you basically understand the larger picture of Indian nationalism or larger picture of Indian history between 1757 and 1857. I'll summarize one thing, all of this in one timeline, and that should be enough for us to revise the whole concept. So this is for you, Company Raj. First Farman, Shah Shuja Farman, Farooq Siyar Farman. Thereafter, Plassey, Buxar and grant of Diwani. I have not written 1615. 1615 is implied in that. Golden Farman implied. What I'm writing is the most important ones. Charter Act, Indian monopoly gone, Chinese monopoly gone, open competition, revolt of East India Company rule ends. I know it is 64. I am writing 65 for the grant of Diwani. Now, land revenue, commercialization, industrialization, what am I trying to represent here? Through this one, the orange one which I put in. Come on, tell me. 1876 is Calcutta Darbar, not Delhi. Delhi Darbar is 11. Education policy. If I put in 1746 in that, what am I trying to represent? Very good, Sachin. Great. So I'm technically trying to represent First Carnatic War. So direct conquest of India begins, whilst they also pursued a indirect policy. So if you basically look at it, this is also the same period for socio-religious reform. What I'm trying to tell you is that, see, these are the basic dates which you need to know as it is. And this is the basic period of the company. The company will pursue a specific education policy. They will start direct conquest in the first Carnatic War. Indirect conquest will happen in the background. Economic policy after grant of Diwani is going to be important. Social justice reform movement will keep on going on. The simple point is this is how our whole period, which we've been discussing for now close to 10, 11 classes, is there. So all thematics which I've covered with you are in this slide itself. So I think we all are comfortable with Company Raj. So don't ask me what do you mean by Company Raj. This is what is called Company Raj, where the East India Company managed India, and generally it should be clear in your mind. Because now when I pivot, I will go into nationalism. I will presume that you know these things. So can I now pivot towards nationalism? Yes? Great. So I presume you understand East India Company. I presume you understand Charter Acts. I presume what is a joint stock company. I presume what is a private company. I presume education policy. I presume social justice reform movement. Now our agenda is totally different. So our 1746 is the first Carnatic War, 46 to 48. Now, now our orientation is this: INC, pre-INC, moderates, and nationalism. I want your attention now. The fundamental question now arises is, what is nationalism first? What is nationalism? Now, this is not a political science class. This is not polity. This is not philosophy. So the definition I give you for nationalism is obviously not exhaustive. But what it is the amalgamation of different concepts of nationalism, and that nationalism concept itself will give you enough understanding. And you need to understand what is this concept of nationalism which I'm talking about, because there are multiple interpretations. But now we are going to discuss a workable definition of nationalism. What about crown rule? Anshu, we have started crown rule. So I will start today and end on 15th May with you. That will be end of crown rule. Okay. Don't have to add treaties and battles into a timeline. I already told you the trick for it. Please don't do this third class, fourth class things you're asking me now. So don't do that. Okay. Now, 5th, 15th doesn't matter. Listen to me. What is nationalism for you? Now, have to be more engaging. Come on. What is nationalism for you? Feeling of oneness, spirit of oneness, Indian. Indian, I understand. Give me the understanding. Feel of country, feel of nation, patriotism, nation first, fraternity, love for country, feeling of pride, brotherhood, nation first, sense of nationhood, unity, patriotism, sense of oneness, moving in same path, unity of Indians, unified feeling, oneness, feeling of national freedom, Akhand Bharat, very good. Feeling of wellness and common sense that emerges with same group of people, common goal, feeling, culture, nation. Okay. See, okay, I get it. Nationalistic feeling. So feeling you have, but you're not able to express it. So very simply, what you are giving me is the effect of nationalism, not what is nationalism. You are like coming together, unity, patriotism. Firstly, patriotism and nationalism are quite different. Patriotism scale is very, very, very slow. It's regional. When it's regional nationalism, it's called patriotism. Nationalism is much higher. Okay, no issue. So you understand the feeling, the bhavana is there, but you don't know how to express it. So let's try to express it in the right way. Okay. So how do you define nationalism for the purpose of the examination? There are three things which basically make, if these three things are happening, we believe that nationalism is rising. So if these three processes are happening, we believe that nationalism is rising. First is a sense of unity or identity starts to develop around the concept of shared past and shared future. The word here is important is identity, and the concept shared is very important. What do I mean by that? See, you and me, maybe we will never meet a lot of Indians. There are close to 2 billion Indians now. I have not met all of them. Neither I will meet them. But what do we share? If India goes up, we go up. If India goes down, we go down. Very simply, Ashoka was their ruler also, my ruler also. So we have a shared history, which is a shared past. And if India becomes a 5 trillion economy, we are also part of it. So you are talking about unity, identity. But around what is that identity actually created? The fact is very simple that you and me are Indians because we both have the same history and we both will have the same future as a nation. Wherein if I talk about, for example, the Guptas are also we were also ruled by the Guptas, I was also ruled by the Guptas. Simple point of the matter is, if India wins the World Cup, we all will the World Cup. So it's not the fact that the unity is there. It's about how does that unity come together. And that unity is basically based on shared experience. Please understand this is the concept of shared experience. If ISRO launches a rocket, that rocket is as equally as mine as yours. So the basic point of the matter is that when you start to see identity formation, not on the fact that both of us have something where we are related, when we have identity formation on the concept of that we both have the same history, but we both have the same future also. If the British rule us, they rule both of us. So your future and my future are not independent to each other. Your future, my future is tied to this nation. So therefore, our unity and identity is tied in the concept of shared experience and what we will experience later together. Are you getting my point? That the first point is that when you start to see people talking about we, the people, that we are having the same past, we have the same future, then this we becomes very, very important. Are we clear with regards to the first point? What do I mean by sense of unity developing around this concept of shared past and shared future? Yes. But how do we know that is happening? We know it under the concept of, this identity and feeling starts to express itself in symbols culture and public spaces. Give me an example of symbol of our identity and feeling. Give me a symbol. Yes, the national flag. The national flag is that one identity, one symbol which expresses our shared feeling and shared identity. But at this point of time, it's not the national flag, but it's actually, for example, the concept of Bharat Mata. The shared identity and feeling, for example, which is developing at this point of time, is based on the concept of songs, Vande Mataram, are based on the concept of paintings, are based on the concept of flags for sure, is based on the concept of leaders. Gandhi was a symbol which represented this identity and feeling. So the simple point of the matter is that when this identity now starts to get expressed in the press, poems, critiques, symbols, cartoons, in this, the most important role is played by the press. Newspapers, journals, these are the spaces in which now they are trying to talk about we, that the newspaper in South India was talking about the same issues which they were talking in North India. This is where our identity now starts to get expressed in symbols, cultures, and public spaces. Second issue, second point clear, because then the third is going to bring everything together. Yes? Very good. Now, all of this needs to be expressed in a very certain way, and that certain way tells us that nationalism has actually matured. When these feelings and concepts express themselves as collective action, then we believe that nationalism has truly arisen. What do I mean by collective action? That we are now ready to come on the streets in the name of this identity. So collective action means that we are ready to work together to, in a way, express our collective identity. So every Indian who was lathi charged, both of them had the same feeling because they were on the road to represent a certain identity, and that was India. Collective action, you want examples? Rowlatt Satyagraha, Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, CDM, Quit India movement. Every moment in which Indians were on the road fighting with the British, that was collective action. Social religious reform movement is also collective action, where we all consent to say that yes, sati is bad, and we collectively act on it. Simple point of the matter is, what is nationalism is basically, there is no exact definition of nationalism. What I am giving you is a nationalistic workable definition, because nationalism is an abstract concept. Benedict Anderson imagined community, this, that, we don't have to go into these things. As I said, this is not a philosophy class. Simple point is, for us, what is nationalism? We are looking for three things. If unity and identity starts to develop on shared past and shared future, then we technically believe that nationalism is rising. If it starts to get expressed in the public domain vis-a-vis symbols and culture, it is again considered a concept of nationalism. And thereafter, the feeling and concept of all of these unity, diversity, whatever it is, if it translates into collective action, then truly nationalism has arisen. Yes? Sati was banned by the British, but we told them to ban the British, right? Are we clear? See, feeling of pride and belonging is the effect of all of these things. Collective action means mass movement. People coming on the road, you collectively act. I'll give you a very simple understanding. Can we agree to these three things? It's not difficult. Unity shared, expressed in symbols, expressed in action. Action means collective action. Together we act. Okay. Now the question is, how? Nationalism, how did it develop? How did it develop? Now, the ironic part is that everything which I've taught you till this point, can voting be nationalism? Why not? Now you're asking me questions which actually makes no sense, but sure. Can voting be nationalism? Yes. If you work for the nation, you are, even if you throw your garbage into the right bin and you do not litter, you are a nationalist. You don't have to technically dance on the road for it. If you are working for the nation, day in, day out in your own way, then you are a nationalist. That's the only point. There's no concept that you have to do these things. If you do public good, if you are working for the Indian Republic, then you are a nationalist. There's no concept of there are not criterias. Right. Okay. Now the question is, how did nationalism rise? Then, as I said, ironically, every thematic which I've taught you is actually related to nationalism. You see, economic policy, let's go from the beginning itself. Expansion of the British, consolidation of the British, economic policy, you have education policy, socio-religious reform, resistance to Raj. Now, how are these things related to nationalism? See, expansion politically unites India under the same political power. Consolidation of the British administratively unites India. Economic policy, shared experience of exploitation, creates the middle class in intelligentsia, collective actions under social reform, localized moments of people coming together. If you look at it, who created nationalism? Who created nationalism? Yes. It is the British who created nationalism. By unifying us into one political structure, by giving us a unified administration under the ICS and the judiciary, by giving us the shared experience that if a person from Madras used to go to Bengal, Madras person used to say that I was exploited. So the Bengal person used to say, I was also exploited. Then they used to go to Delhi and they used to say, we were exploited. So the Delhi person used to say, I was also exploited. So in a way, what British does is they exploit everybody. So therefore, we all gain a shared experience of exploitation. So we are like, okay, you are also the same. I am also the same. You were also destroyed. I was also destroyed. Jamindar say, I also lost land. Peasant says, I also lost land. He says, I was also taken money away from that. I was made to grow indigo. I was also made to grow indigo. I was asked to grow opium. I was also asked to grow opium. So in a way, we all are doing the same thing. But this exploitation needed an expression. That expression will be created by the middle class intelligentsia, because they will be the leaders. They will be the leaders who will actually take the movement forward. But you will say, sir, if there is shared experience, then where can we see that it is manifesting itself? It is manifesting itself first, for the first time, in the social. In a way, we all agreed that widows should be remarried. In a way, we all agreed that child marriage should be stopped. Yes. So when Raja Ram Mohan Roy, when Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, when MG Ranade were saying that we need to collectively act, did they act or not? They act. They acted, and therefore their new experience was there. But the most important point is, we can see what are called flashpoints. There were flashes of this nationalism, but only at a localized way. So what I'm trying to do is, see, I can easily not tell you any of this. What is nationalism and how does nationalism rise? I can easily go and say Banga Bhasha came in pre-INC organization. I can do that. But I'm trying to actually give you an understanding, because somehow people think that nationalism falls from the sky. No, nationalism is the unintended, uncontrolled consequence of colonialism. Meaning, whenever there will be colonialism, there will be nationalism. But it is about how quickly and how well does it manifest itself. So the thematics which I've taught you were not just thematics for randomly telling you this is the education policy, this is the social. No. Everything which I've taught you till this point technically explains to us why did it become possible for nationalism to rise in 1850, after 1857, or very simply, all these movements, are they basically a concept of what we call as shared history, collective action? So very simply, nationalism is like the byproduct of colonialism if correctly used. So I think you are now capable of understanding that nationalism does not come from somewhere else. It rises from within, and it is a unintended consequence. A lot of you are saying, why didn't the British stop it? Because everything which the British does, in a way, adds to nationalism. They wanted to exploit India more through the railways, but railways also unifies India. People can travel quicker, things can travel quicker. So as much as the policies were to use India, but were also creating the context for nationalism to rise. Are we clear? Because these types of things can be asked indirectly in the examination in a mains question. So after 1 hour, are we clear with regards to what do I mean by nationalism? How does nationalism rise? And what is the structure of India at this point of time under Government of India Act 1858? Yes? You all are part of that? Perfect. Okay. If that is the case, then we can go to the first thematic, which is called pre-INC organizations, which is pre-Indian National Congress organizations. Okay. Now, is there nationalism before British? Shavni, you tell me, if there was nationalism before British, would British have actually conquered India? If you're saying yes, then you should tell me why is that? Why is that it was so easy for them to take India so quickly? So the question is that don't mistake regionalism or power of certain dynasties as nationalism. The problem was were we united? You tell me. We were never united only. Because if Mysore was fighting, Mysore was not fighting just with the British. It was fighting with the Hyderabad, Carnatic, and Maratha sector. Only when these three used to come together, that is nationalism. But there is no sense of nationalism. Okay. Now for the purpose of the examination, the reasons for the rise of nationalism. So the factors which led to the rise of associations and early nationalistic organizations. First point, understanding of contradiction in Indian and colonial interest. It's a hi-fi way of saying exploitation and the violence on day-to-day basis by the English showed to us that our interests were not the same as the British. Second is political, administrative, and economic unification. Political unification via conquest, administrative via the ICS and judiciary and police, economic unification via the concept of land revenue, etc., but also railways. So in a way, this unification for exploitation was also the reason for nationalism. Telegraph, you want to use telegraph. That's not the point. The point is that we use the same thing which the British used to exploit us. So they were centralizing and becoming more and more what we call as exploitative. We use the same centralization to unify our identity. Thereafter, Western education and thought. So education policy created the middle class intellectuals. Thereafter, the most important the role of press. By 1877, 169 newspapers were published in vernacular languages, and their circulation reached the neighborhood of close to 1 lakh people each. And the role of press was to develop public opinion. The social justice reform movement was the movement of collective action against social evils, and the role of the middle class intelligentsia, which came out of this whole process. They were initially the loyalists, but later the nationalists. So they were created as a group which would protect the British, but they are also the group which destroyed the British over a period of time. Right? Clear, everybody? That middle class intelligentsia was the utilitarian idea that let us create a loyal class, but this same loyal class is going to destroy the British in the long run. Right? Now, a little bit of a factual discussion, wherein now we have to discuss pre 1885 organizations which are seen to be the basic building block on which the INC was formed. Think of it like this, if you remember, 1857 revolt was the culmination of century of resistance. Same way, the formation of the INC should be seen as a culmination of the pre-INC bodies, organizations, and movements. So INC again did not come out of the blue. It was the building blocks of these pre-INC organizations that created the INC itself. Now listen to me very clearly. See, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you a break here, 5 minutes. I'm splitting the break into two because there are 3 topics or 4 topics which we have to cover. And if I enter into this discussion, then it will be 8 o'clock before we can actually break. So what I want is that we can take 5 minutes here, and thereafter, we'll take 5 minutes after INC formation, which is safety valve theory and all. That way it won't seem heavy. I know you don't need it, very good. But you don't know what is coming henceforth. So what will happen is that then you will ask me to break in between, then I will not. So let me tell you that you need a break here, 5 minutes. And thereafter, I'll give you 5 when you will say to me. Right? You are saying that you're ready, you're no issues. Take 5 here and I will give you 5 later. Acceptable? Okay, great. So it is what? 7:10. We come back at 7:15. And we'll now start with this new thematic. Consolidate everything. Understand everything. I'll leave you here. Think of it. I've been talking about a lot of things. We'll be back at 7:16. Right? Okay. Okay. Now, we divide the pre-INC organizations according to regions. Bengal, Bombay, and Madras. Now, very simply, welcome back everybody. The point is that Bombay, Madras are only one organization, Pune Swarajyik Sabha, and that's it. Bengal is the one which has multiple organizations. Now, the question is, do you have to learn these organizations? Yes. I'll tell you the trick how to do that. So, the first organization which actually developed in Bengal is called the Banga Bhasha Prashashika Sabha, started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy and his associates. Technically, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was dead, but his associates rather. And thereafter, the next year itself, there was a new organization which developed, which is called the Landholder Society. Basically, this was a Zamindari association to safeguard the interests of landlords. And the culmination of this first phase comes with the Bengal British India Society, which again was about collection and dissemination of information about what were the people doing. Now, if you look at the name Bengal British India Association, what is that odd one out word which is there, or can we understand the perception of this organization by just looking at the name? What is that one word which gives us that feeling? Yes, the fact that it says Bengal British India Association. They associate themselves with the British, therefore their ideas are aligned vis-a-vis that. So how do you learn the first set? Bangland, BBIS. You have Banga Bhasha, Bang. Thereafter, Landholder Society, Land, and BBIS, Bengal British India Association, or rather Bengal British India Society. So this is the first set. So you have Banga Bhasha, then you have Land Holders Society, and then you have Bengal British India Society. What is going to happen is that this will cease to exist after a point because it was already redundant. No, Aarti, I'll give you the chronology, don't worry. These two will actually join later. These two will actually join later to produce what is called the British India Association. British Indian Association, called the BIA. Now, why am I telling you this? They are the epicenter because most of the education spread in Bengal itself, and middle class intelligentsia is also concentrated in that. Yes, don't have to learn the dates. If you can remember the chronology, they're given chronologically only. Don't worry, I'll do that exercise with you. Right now, just look at the names and understand what they are actually standing for. The commonality between all of these associations is that they are conservative, they are pro-British, and they want to express their concerns to the British via these associations. So though these associations are technically not nationalistic, they are not nationalistic, but they are basically political bodies. But why is it important? Because at least people have now started to come together under their own interest. So Banga Bhasha Landholder Society, Bengal British India Society, which becomes these two come together to produce the Bengal British Indian Association. They are the conservative bunch. So you have their basic suggestions and basic plea to the British would be that you give us a separate legislature of popular character, because at least that way they could get entry into the legislature. Separate executive for judicial functions, again, so that they can get employment. It's all about their employment. Reduction in the salary of higher officers so that it could be open to the Indians. Abolition of salt duty, abkari, and the stamp duties. Abkari means customs. And basically anything which impacted them onto the day-to-day basis, that concept is not going to actually be the core value, but something which they will talk about. Most of their demands were partially accepted via the Charter Act of 1853, with addition of 6 members to the Governor General for legislative purposes. So the first salt duty means that any salt which is produced, there's a duty or a tax on it. The simple point is Banga Bhasha, Landholder Society, BBIS, and BIA, British Indian Association, they are not revolutionary, they are not radical, they are not nationalistic. They are just protecting their own interest. That's it. This one point we can agree to, that the early bodies are in a way conservative. Partially accepted because legislative council is created, so the expansion of legislature is there. End of story. Now, the next set is more interesting. The next organization is Dadabhai Naoroji, who will establish the East India Association in London so that he could influence the public opinion of the British about India. Indians were not there in legislative council. That was the loophole. They increased the legislative council, but Indians were not allowed. But what is more interesting is what Shishir Kumar Ghosh is going to do, which is in 1875, he will introduce the concept of the Indian League. What is that word which has been dropped? Now, when Shishir Kumar Ghosh starts to develop a nationalistic feeling, the word British is dropped. Now it's called the Indian League for stimulating the sense of nationalism. It's called the Indian Association of Calcutta, later called the Indian National Association. All of these bodies by Anand Mohan Ghosh or you have Surendranath Banerjee. Now they are not conservative, but are technically going to take on a nationalistic feeling. So the basic point is that all of them are actually already in chronology, but their demands are different. Their demands are that they want to promote legitimate means of political, intellectual, and material advancement, but also want to change the public opinion in India and unite the people into a common political program. This is why the concept of British India becoming Indian is very, very important. So we have discussed Banga Bhasha, we have discussed landholders, we've discussed the Bengal British India Society, and these two together then become British Indian Association. Yes, you have to remember them. I don't say that, but I'm trying to do that only. They will now fight with, in a way, the new organizations. The Indian League, the Indian National Association, and the East Indian Association. So this is in London though. And the concept is that they are mostly conservative, whilst on the other hand they are nationalistic. It's about the political awakening of the people. Is this making sense? Though localized, though based on regional politics, these associations are at least developing a sense of coming together for your interests. The fact that now they are uniting themselves under this concept, the collective action phase is on. Are we clear with regards to them? Because then what I'll do is I'll put them on a timeline after adding Bombay and Bengal so that you don't have to learn the dates. Ironically, they're also in chronology also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the chronology also. And if I add the only political association in Bombay, which will be started by MG Ranade, Mahadev Govind Ranade, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. This was again about bridging the gap between the people and the government. And there will be the Bombay Presidency Association, which will be started by Badruddin Taibji and Firosha Mehta. In the same year, the INC was actually formed. But this will actually not go forward that much. And thereafter, you have the only political association in Madras at this point of time in 1884, which is called the Madras Mahajan Sabha. And in this, you just learn one name if you want to. You can remember B. Subramanian Iyer. And here you can remember Firosha Mehta as it is. You will know Badruddin Taibji also is INC member. And MG Rande we already know. So you would need to know their names and you would need to know their organizations. This is something called pre-INC. Total list is maximum 9. If you understand the purpose of the discussion, I would like to put them all on one timeline itself. These are called pre-INC organizations. Don't expect a mains question, but a prelims area can be, can be sprinkled around in the examination. Can I talk about or can I put them on a timeline? Come on. Gave you the 5-minute break for the same reason because I knew it will become a little bit factual. Yes. Who funded these associations? Their own members. Okay. Now, Ganga Bhasha Prashashika. Landholders Society. British thereafter. Now we have to see one thing. We have East India Association, the Indian Association and India League. We know the basic chronology. It's what? 1866, 1875, 1876. So they are already in chronology, but we need to fit in Bombay and Madras. So this is 1867 and 85. So do they clash with any of these two? Yes. So you have 1866. 1866. We have to add the East India Association. Thereafter, so what I'm trying to do here is that I'm trying to negate the need to learn their names. So now 1867, 66, 75, 76. So you have 67. Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. Thereafter, we have, this is 1885, this is 1884. So Madras Mahajan Sabha is going to be the end, in the end. So you will have here Indian Society, the Indian Society. Thereafter, the Indian National Association. Then you have the first will be the Bombay one. Bombay President, no. You have Madras Mahajan Sabha. Madras Mahajan Sabha. And then last but not the least is going to be the Bombay Presidency Association. Bombay Presidency Association. So I've added all in the same timeline so that we have much more clarity in that regard. So I'm not writing the dates on it because then it defeats the purpose. If you can remember the sequence, then you don't have to learn the dates. So you have Banga Bhasha Prashashika Sabha, thereafter the Landholder Society, then Bengal British India Society, Bengal British India Society, then you have British India Association, then you have the East India Association, Pune Swarajani Sabha, so you go to Bombay, then you come back to Bengal again, the Indian Society or by Shishir Kumar Ghosh, thereafter Indian National Association, and which I have written society, it's the League. One second. The name is League, right? Oh, yes. Now better? Indian League. So we go back to Bengal, the Indian League, the Indian National Association, then Madras Mahajan Sabha, Bombay Presidency Association. This is the basic chronology, right? If you don't put in the dates, you just learn the sequence. That's it. These are all together called the pre-INC bodies. Pre-INC bodies, right? You can make an acronym, but I would say you should remember it like this. This is the cutoff point. All of these are conservative bodies. Thereafter, these are all nationalistic bodies. What is their purpose? Banga Bhasha, Landholder Society, Bengal British India Society, and British India Association are about safeguarding the interests of loyalists. And thereafter, the next set is basically very simply to create a political awakening of the people. This is in Bengal. The name itself should be clear. This is in Bengal. London, Bombay, Bengal, Madras, Bombay. Now clear. You don't need to remember that this is a purely prelims oriented discussion. These are the organizations which should be seen. This is the peasant and tribal of, in that regard, of INC. See, why am I doing this with you? Wherein people again think that the INC automatically came up one day. But what does this show us? This shows us that between 1860s and 1880s, there's a progressive rise in associations which actually wanted more and more. But the problem of all these associations is that they're localized, are not coordinated each other, not coordinating with each other. So I hope that you now will understand why was there a need for an all India association. Because though there are nationalistic associations, they are scattered around. So the need for an all India association is there, and therein lies the origin of the INC. So please understand this point. We have discussed the company Raj. We've now entered the reasons of, we've understood what is nationalism. We've understood what are the reasons for the rise of nationalism. Now we're discussing organizations which came before the INC. The first all India national body was the INC. Now we are seeing how these are the building blocks. They are the building blocks on which the INC will be formed in 1885, finally. So, if this is clear, can I talk about the formation of the Indian National Congress before we'll see what are the things on which they campaign? We are now entering the formation of the INC. We've already discussed pre-INC associations. Now, you don't have to learn this. Do not learn. But just to show you what issues they are taking up, quite diverse that ways. So, you have imposition of import duty on cotton. They opposed it. For Indianization of Indian services, they said that please add Indians to the ICS. They were against the Arms Act. They were against the Vernacular Press Act. We'll talk about Arms Act and Vernacular Press Act separately. They wanted the right to join Volunteers Corps in the war, against plantation labor and Immigration Act, that there should be no exploitation of plantation labor. They will support a bill which is called the Ilbert Bill, which I will discuss with you later. Ripon introduced it, where an European judge could actually try, an Indian judge could try a European. All India Political Fund. Now this is the irony. They wanted the British to give them a fund so that they could oppose the British. All India Fund for Political Agitation. That you give us some money so that we can fight against you itself. Thereafter, a campaign in Britain for pro-India party in Britain itself. They wanted the reduction of the maximum age for appearing in the Indian civil services. They also were basically agitating against somehow opening up the Indian civil services. Basically, their major concept is Indian civil services should be opened up. In a way, they all want, in a way, up employment. That's the basic point. There's a theory which says that it's more or less them asking for employment within the British government. So they're a conservative in that sense. Right. Okay. Jagdish, I don't know what is your doubt. Push in the doubt. Then I will see. I have not seen your doubt. Okay. Clear? Difference between conservative nationalists. Conservatives are pro-British, nationalists are anti-British. Can I go to INC? This is a factual zone. What about Bengal British India Society? Jagdish, write the question, full question. I have not seen your question. What about it? Bengal British India Society. See, firstly, don't confuse yourself. Simple point is, there are pre-INC associations. They all form in different areas. They are in Bengal, Madras, and Bombay. Grievances are localized and they mostly want Indian civil services reform. They will oppose other things, will be not able to achieve anything. And generally, it is an important concept wherein they are political organizations which are agitating together. They are examples of what we call as the concept of simply political action or collective action. That is it. That's it. So there is nothing here. Yes, INC is conservative. I'll talk about that. Forget the INC right now. Tell me if there's a question in which they ask you to put them in chronological order or they ask you their organization, the leaders, you will be able to answer it. That is a purely learning space. What we need to understand is why did the INC form and what is the concept. Can I move on? Conservatives are pro-British. Conservatives mean that they don't want British to go away. Okay. Indians know about the exploitation, but they are not conscious of it. I will tell you that, Shruti, that is called economic nationalism. Separate issue altogether. You don't go forward. You be with me. We understand the purpose of the discussion as building blocks. Now I need to discuss with you INC. Now please understand there are two aspects to this discussion. The Indian National Congress, we know that it's like a culmination of a process. But when we talk about the origins of the INC, there are certain questions on it. That why did the INC form and what is the role of one personality? What is the role of one such personality whose name is AOU? So 72 people, mostly social reformers, journalists and lawyers, will on 28 December 1885 meet at the Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit College in Bombay under the banner of Indian National Union, and by the time they will come out, they will change it to Indian National Congress, the INC. But there was one person who was sitting there, a retired ICS officer, A.O. Hume, and he is considered a very important personality in the formation of the INC itself. So now what I need to discuss with you is this concept of safety valve theory, or what is called the myth of the origin of the formation of the INC. So I can now go into that discussion, right? Till this point, I have discussed what is nationalism, what is the reason for nationalism, what is the pre-INC organizations. We know the answer to the question, how was the INC formed, which is that it was formed via a culmination of political processes. But there was a major debate. There's a major debate over this person, A.O. Hume's presence. And there's a major myth which has been created, which is called the concept of safety valve theory or the lightning conductor theory. Can I now discuss that? Everybody is ready. Only after this discussion, I give you a break. Right? Okay. Now see, the INC is formed in 1885. Ironically, the hall was booked under the name of Alan Octavian Hume. Alan Octavian Hume basically is a retired ICS officer, and remember, this area is purely mains. So you need to understand this concept very well. Only then you will be able to write an answer. So AOU is an retired ICS officer who's credited to have actually booked the conference hall itself, but he brought the leaders together, and he is also the one who gave the structure, initial structure to the INC. So the initial structure and the leaders were invited by AOU to that conference hall. Now, there was already a need for a nationalistic body, which was pan-Indian, all-Indian. And these smaller bodies, which were all across India, were not able to serve the purpose. But the INC, when it is formed, it's an innocent body. AOU, when he forms the INC, he doesn't know that the same body is going to get independence for India. In 1885, when this body is created, no one knows what is the future. Maybe they will meet today, maybe they will meet tomorrow, or maybe they will not meet only. So now AOU, there's a question, what was the intention of AOU? What was the intention of AOU? Alan Octavian Hume is considered, though a liberal, the fact that he saw the real face of the British in 1857 and thereafter. So he lost faith in the British. But there's one theory which his biographer pushed. After the death of AOU, his biography was written, and it was written by a person called Wedderburn. William Wedderburn was his name. Now he is writing this in 1902, 1903. By this point of time, INC has become a little bit bigger. And William Wedderburn talks about what is called the conspiracy of Hume and Dufferin. So Dufferin is the Governor General and Viceroy. Now, what is the story here? The story here is very simple. That now no, AOU is dead. This is his biography. And AOU's family still resides in England. And if British are going to start to get annoyed of the British, are going to start to get annoyed of the INC, and the INC will progressively become the reason why India got independence, will they let AOU's family actually live in peace? Basically, AOU is that person who created the gun which will shoot the British in the head. So now understand the intention of Wedderburn. Understand the intention of Wedderburn. Wedderburn is trying to write something which can protect AOU's interest. We don't know what was AOU's interest itself, but Wedderburn is now going to create a story which fortunately or in a way is actually not true. Now, what is the story? The story is that AOU was going through the National Archives, was going through a set of documents. While she was going through the set of documents in Delhi, he comes across 7 volumes of intelligence information, and AOU very dramatically reads this. He reads these 7 volumes quickly, And the conclusion which AOUM comes to is that there is a conspiracy of the lower classes of India to overthrow the government. Basically, another 1857 was going to happen. So AOUN very dramatically picks up the files and now runs towards the railway station and says that I need to go to Shimla to meet the viceroy. He will reach Shimla and he will say to Dufferin, I need audience with you. Dufferin is going to meet AOUM, and after a heated discussion in which AOUM explains to Dufferin that if we don't do something, another 1857 is coming. A conspiracy of the lower classes are coming. We need to do something. If we don't, then British rule will end in India. And the conclusion of that meeting was, let us create the INC. Let us create the Indian National Congress as a safety valve to let out this political steam or pressure, to give an illusion of political participation. It's to release the pressure. I'll tell you what that safety valve is. If you've ever seen a pressure cooker, the pressure cooker has a CT that which you see here. But if you ever see a pressure cooker very closely, you will see that there's also a small valve here. There's a very small valve here. So what happens is that for some reason this doesn't work. The valve melts and gives off steam. This is called safety valve. So the concept which Wedderburn is technically arguing is that because AOU knew that political pressure and political turmoil and political unrest was so much, we needed to do a drama, and Dufferin and AOU will create the INC as a conspiracy. Basically, the core ideology concept is that the INC was formed as a conspiracy of Dufferin and Hume. Are you getting the basic Mangadant Kahani which has been created? You getting the point? Okay. Now you will say, sir, is it true? And the answer to this question is no. Because as soon as we got independence, the first thing which all historians tried to find is the 7 volumes. They don't exist. Second, they went in to see any records of Dufferin meeting Hume. That is also not there. Further, they tried to check if there was any intelligence report or any communication within the British, because they record everything, about the INC before 1885. So if the Indian National Congress was referred to in any file before 1885, it would mean that there was some form of understanding which is the British had. 1885, before 1885, there is no mention of INC. It's only after 1885 that we see the INC being referred to. So this safety valve concept was actually created by Dufferin and by Wedderburn to, in a way, sanitize the image of Hume. Because Hume is the same person who created the body which technically ended British rule in India. But how does he show that A.O. Hume did it out of goodwill or out of a conspiracy? Now the concept is very simple. Now please try to understand this. The INC in the initial phase will be moderate, meaning conservative. And this word safety valve was actually not given by Wedderburn. This word safety valve was actually given by Lala Lajpat Rai in order to criticize the British and the INC, that the INC is very mild. R.C. Dutt and Lala Lajpat Rai both said that you are a mouthpiece of the British. So the concept of safety valve was actually not given by Wedderburn. Wedderburn used this as a conspiracy of Hume and Dufferin. But we call it safety valve theory because Lala Lajpat Rai used it to actually criticize the INC. Now, first and foremost point is there is this story of 7 volumes, another 1857, and political steam, conspiracy of Hume and Dufferin. Is this story clear first to you? Because then I'll systematically create an understanding. The story makes sense. Yes. Now, you understand the story. The second aspect is, please understand it very simply. The story says very, very simply that don't ask me questions now. Don't write anything right now. Listen to me and then ask me a question, because you're asking me questions which I'm going to answer. Right now, just listen to me. Stop typing. Listen to me. Because a lot of you are saying no and you're the same people who are writing questions. So listen to me. The Wedderburn writes the biography of the INC, a biography of A.O. Hume. A.O. Hume was instrumental in the first meeting of the INC. Hereafter, Wedderburn is going to write a biography. He will put in a concept called the 7 volumes of intelligence, which was read by A.O. Hume, taken to Dufferin, and it was a conspiracy of Dufferin and A.O. Hume to create the INC as a form of, in a way, evading and avoiding another INC, giving a pan-Indian body to the Indians, which could act like an illusion of political participation, and it would be considered a conservative body. Therefore, if somebody asks Wedderburn, why did A.O. Hume do what he did? His answer would be that he did it for the interest of the British itself. Right? In Wedderburn's understanding, A.O. Hume is a hero because he saved the British from another eye in 1857. Yes or no? Yes. In a way, that says that he saved the British from another eye, another 1857. Now, the INC will be formed. INC initially till 1905. Between the first 20 years, it is going to be a conservative body. I'll discuss moderates with you. So now, Lala Lajpat Rai, an extremist, R.C. Dutt and Lala Lajpat Rai will find INC politics frustrating. So they will say that Wedderburn was right. You are nothing but a conspiracy of the British. So you are nothing but a safety valve. So Lala Lajpat Rai is not trying to actually say, he's trying to express his frustration. So Lala Lajpat Rai's words should not be seen as the testimony that it is a safety valve. He's just trying to criticize the moderate leaders. So now the question comes, is the safety valve theory actually true, or this conspiracy actually true? And the answer to that question is, there is no historical record of that. There's no communication, there's no documents, nothing at all. Is this basic explanation clear? Because then I'll enter into a new concept which is equally important. So we know that safety valve theory is not correct. We know that the INC was a culmination of political processes in India, and we know that Lala Lajpat Rai did not mean what he said. But now let's for one second take in a hypothetical situation. So you see, I'll read it out to you so that there's no issue. Alan Octavian Hume is a retired English civil servant. He had commanded a battalion in 1857 revolt. He lost faith in the British rule itself. Therefore, he started to write the criticism of the British. He mobilized leading intellectuals to meet at the Gokuldas College in 1885. And he wanted to say that the liberation of the people of India can be through education and a body. Now, the theory of the origin is based on William Wedderburn's biography written in 1913 of AOU that showcased that the lower classes were planning a conspiracy to overthrow the British government. Hume met Dufferin, the new viceroy, in 1884, and they decided to form an Indian organization. It would serve as a safety valve by opening the lines of communication between the British and the Indians. So, the most powerful and long lasting myth of the INC is that the INC was started by AOU under the official directions and offering and advice of a duffer called Dufferin, and it was to provide safe, mild, peaceful, and constitutional outlet or safety valve for the discontent to come out, therefore, in turn, avoiding an 1857 like situation. Later, because of the moderate politics, Lala Lajpat Rai is going to, in 1916, in Young India paper, talk about this safety valve theory to attack the moderates, having discussed at theory in length that how Lord Dufferin's brainchild was the Congress, and the Congress was nothing more than just there to protect the British Empire. And even R.P. Dutt is going to talk about in India Today, a very authoritative text, that somehow the INC seems to be a mouthpiece of the British. They were technically criticizing, but they actually were not adding. When we talk about this basic theory, if we look for the historical records, there are none. The 7 secret volumes which were used by Hume and taken to Shimla in 1878 have never been found, and therefore there is no data to suggest that the INC was a conspiracy. So this is the basic concept. But let's for one second take in all angles. Now what I want to do with you is basically have a brainstorming. Can I do that? Can we do that? You understand the basic concept, right? Social lower classes in all senses, right? Now let's for one second hypothetically see, it's not the job of the historian to know motives. As it is, historical documents don't give you motives. But let's, for example, 1 second presume that AOU had done it as a form of safety valve. See, AOU did it as a safety valve or not as a safety valve. It is a blunder. It is a blunder. Because if he made it up or he did not made it up, INC will become a problem for the British. So sitting 2-3 years down the line, when 1,200 people were sitting in an INC meeting, AOU would fear for his death. That the fact that I created this institution to just be a small outlet of steam, now they're using it for the different purpose itself. So, for example, AOU did it in goodwill or not in goodwill. Either way, INC was created. And now you tell me one thing, when in 1947 the British will leave, will they ever agree to the fact that we created the INC? No. So in a way, if it is true or not true, the British will always deny. Because how can they say that we created the bomb which set out in my hand only? So Wedderburn is doing what the British wanted him to do, which is to argue that galti to ho gaya. There's a mistake which happened. But that mistake is not a mistake. It's a strategic concept. A lot of students previously, when they fail the first attempt of UPSC, they say, I didn't fail the first attempt. I went there for the feel of the examination. How does the examination feel? How does the paper come? I was trying to feel the examination. This is what is happening with Wedderburn. He is not, AOU may not, or the British may not ever agree to the fact that INC was created by them. But it was created by them. But there's a corollary. There's a concept which is very simply related to the other side of the story, which is that when people used to start to criticize the INC, Gopal Krishna Gokhale gave a concept. Can I discuss that concept with you? Gopal Krishna Gokhale's concept was the lightning conductors theory. What is a lightning conductor? So on very high rise buildings, there's always a small iron lightning conductor, so that if lightning hits it, it does not hit the building, it is conducted to the ground. So basically, big buildings are saved by lightning conductors. Now, Gopal Krishna Gokhale says that you say that Hume used us. What if I say to you that we used you? Would the British ever allow 72 Indians to book a conference hall in Gokuldas College? No. Would the British ever allow 1200 people to come and talk about the political existence of India and the exploitation of India? No. So Gopal Krishna Gokhale now says a very beautiful thing. He didn't use us, we used him. We kept Hume in the front and did everything in the back. And every time the British used to say, what are you doing? Hume. Look at Hume. Britisher baitha hai. He's here. He's here to check. So, very simply, Gopal Krishna Gokhale reversed the whole concept. He said that, okay, safety valve theory is correct. But if safety valve theory is correct, then lightning conductor is also correct. That we actually acted dumb. We actually acted dumb. So think of it. I'll give you a very simple example and it will actually make sense. I hope you are able to understand Gokhale's understanding. That the British would have never allowed anybody to do anything if it was not done by a Britisher. Now, I'll give you a very simple analogy. There's a society. There are multiple families there. Children are playing. So there are little bit children are there. And there are 5 families, 10 children. So the children don't like the fact that somebody is scolding for some reason for sure and at any point of time. So now comes AOU, who doesn't have a child but doesn't like the fact that the children are scolded. So AOU comes and says to the 10 children, why are you going to your families separately then you will always get scolded. Come here, do one thing, come together, and then go and fight with your parents. So according to Wedderburn, A.O. Hume told the INC, do this. But now the children literally dictate everything to the parents. So will A.O. Hume come in the forefront and say, man, I did it, I told the children to unionize? No. So A.O. Hume's wife, Wedderburn, said, no, 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 you are not understanding. A.O. Hume did not do it because he wanted to create the INC. He saw the children technically getting petrol from the petrol station, that they were going to burn your houses. So rather, he told them, don't burn the houses, go and ask for what you want, and you will avoid a 1857 type situation. So Wedderburn is protecting Hume. But the children will say, Gopal Krishna Khokhle in the children, he says to the other parents, this was the plan all along. We were never going to use the petrol. We rather only did the petrol drama because we knew that Hume will look at it. So we bought the petrol in front of Hume itself, so that he would ask us to unionize. If we had unionized on our own, nobody would have supported us. Now Hume supported us. So to just put it in historical context, Hume created, whatever be the reason, yes, good or bad, he had an intention to do it or not to do it, whatever be the reason, Hume created the body which is going to destroy the British. Wedderburn and the British demean the INC by saying, we created you. Gokhale says, okay, you created us. No, you did not use us, we used you. Hume was the puppet in our hands, which was necessary to create a body which was pan-Indian. Only because Hume was there, you allowed us to exist without disbanding us. So if in the exam it says lightning conductor theory or safety valve theory, are you in a position to differentiate between the two and understand what it actually means? Yes. Safety valve says British created INC. Lightning conductor says, yes, they created us, maybe, but we were not being used. We were using the British. A.O. Hume's presence has always created questions. The concept is A.O. Hume's presence was either deliberate or by accident. We will never know. Hume is dead. He did not write even one word about this whole concept. Doesn't really matter to us. The concept is lightning conductor or the safety valve. For us, what is the INC? The INC is the culmination of a larger tradition of nationalism. The foundation of the INC was not a sudden historical event. It is a culmination of the political awakening of the people between 1860 to 70s. And in 1885, there was a need to create an all India body. And that is why the INC was created. So it was both processes together. So if in the exam, before I go to moderates or economic nationalism and moderates after the break, if in the examination, they ask you very simply, is the safety valve theory correct or incorrect? The answer to that question is, it is incorrect. Safety valve theory is incorrect. Thereafter, if they ask you, what was the reason for INC formation? What is the answer you are going to give? What is that one word which you are going to use? Reason for the formation of INC? Yes, culmination. Culmination. That's it. It's a purely theory area. Technically optional level I've taught you for the past 45 minutes, not GS level. Simple point of the matter is INC's formation was not a fluke. Safety valve theory was a Wedderburn's story. No historical record to prove it. INC should not be seen as a sudden spontaneous concept. It should be seen as the concept of culmination of nationalistic feeling, which was already there in the pre-INC associations. Done? How can we say no to safety valve theory? Because there is no historical record and it's Wedderburn's understanding. That's it. Done? Can we break and then talk about economic nationalism once we come back? Don't try to complicate it and don't bring in emotions. And I'm saying it is not true, it is not true. As it is, as it is. If it is true, then Gokhale is also right. If it is not true, then Gokhale is also incorrect. For us, it is immaterial. For the love of God, never in the examination go and write that the body which gave you Sardar Patel, the body which gave you Nehru, with the body which gave you Rajendra Prasad, the body which gave you Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, was a body which was created by the British as a conspiracy. So, as much as you want to disagree with me, doesn't really matter. Simple point, are you getting my point? That you can't go and demean the most important body of the Indian national movement. There is historical evidence itself, but somehow some of you don't want to agree with me. Leave it to you, but then don't write the opposite in the examination. Can I take a break here? And when I come back, go into economic nationalism. It's a very interesting thing. It's much bigger than what I've told you, but I've brought it down to what is needed for GS. Okay, perfect. So it is 8:20. You were saying you did not need a break only, and a lot of people are writing break. What happened? Now break. We don't. Oh, we don't. Very good. Resistance. Gandhiji gave you that. Passive resistance. You want a break, but you will say you don't want a break. Okay. See, it's 8:20. How much? थक गए. अच्छा. Very good. Okay. 10 to 15. 30 minutes बोल दो. Okay. 8:30. 10 minutes. See you. Okay. Yes, Ilma, that is perfect. Hume did it out of his own will. No, not no one forced. Rahul, you tell me how I put all of this information in a table. Table is for facts, not for theory. Okay. Consolidate, I have already done that. Okay. What is your question? What is the difference between the two theories? One says British used INC, the other one says INC used British. That is the difference. No, you don't have to criticize. See, you have to deny safety valve theory. You can talk about an extension of it, which is say the concept of lightning conductor, but you have to make a very simple stance that the INC was not found by either. It was formed by a culmination. That's it. Okay. Can we now talk about economic nationalism? Now we are entering nationalism. How do we know all these theories? Wedderburn's biography and Hochul's biography. Now, see, we've agreed to two, three very simple things. The safety valve theory makes no sense. The lightning conductor may be true, but one thing is for sure that the INC was a culmination of a long drawn process of nationalism rising in India. Now the point is, what changed that allowed the INC to be formed and which allowed everybody to become nationalistic? And therein comes the role of economic nationalists. They are seen as the foundational critique of the British, which allowed for the INC to be what it was. Can I discuss the concept of economic nationalism? These two areas, economic nationalism and the theories related to the origin of INC, are mains oriented areas. Can we talk about economic nationalism? Yes? Okay. British is the lightning conductor, yes. Okay. Now, when we talk about economic nationalists, the people who come to our mind are these four: Dadabhai Naroji, R.C. Dutt, G.V. Joshi, and M.G. Ranade. Together, they broke the back of the British in such a way that thereafter it became never possible for the British to actually justify their rule in India. Now, let's try to understand this concept. Please pay attention. Huh? Now, we all took a time machine and went to 1830, and we met a British officer. So we asked the British officer, why are you here? Why are you here? You have come to India. Why? So he will give you two answers. He will say, we are here to civilize India, and we are here to develop India. These are the two arguments he will give. A moral justification, the white man's self-inflicted white man's burden. And second, that we are the mighty British. We are the nation which industrialized the first. So we will help develop India. Now the middle class intelligentsia, or let's use the middle class intellectuals and thinkers, They also embodied this feeling. They also embodied this feeling. So if you asked a Britisher in 1830s, why are you here? The answer would be these two: civilize Indian subcontinent, develop Indian subcontinent. And the middle class intelligentsia also thought the same, that at the end of the day, the British control Australia also and New Zealand also. So they thought that, okay, maybe it will take time, but British will create India or develop India like Australia and New Zealand, or it will help India industrialize itself. So there's a intrinsic faith and belief that the British are here for developing India. This faith was there since 1757 till 1860s, that maybe, okay, land revenue is needed, maybe destruction of peasantry is important, maybe the destruction of weavers is important, maybe all of it is going to be worth it. But by 1860s, people start to realize nothing is happening only. But the problem was how to articulate it, how to actually understand it, and how to understand it in such a way that people could understand it. And herein lies the most important contribution of Dadabhai Naoroji. Dadabhai Naoroji is going to write a book called Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. He still believes that the British, wherever they go, they do good, so it is un-British rule. But he makes a major argument. And the argument is that the British have systematically drained wealth from India, which could have been used for the development of India. So it is not the development of the underdeveloped, but it is the underdevelopment of the developed, wherein he argued for the first time that poverty, famines, all are not natural, but a consequence of the British economic policy. Now, why is this argument so important? Because in one go, the moral justification, the economic justification was gone. That the British are trying, we are here to develop. Dadabhai Naoroji says, no, you're not. So the economic nationalists, for example, Dadabhai Naoroji is going to give this theory. He will give a quantifiable data. Then G.V. Joshi will prove it. Then M.G. Ranade is going to prove it. Then R. Siddharth is going to prove it. Basically, all these four thinkers together will systematically create a corpus of literature, a whole theory, which is called the drain of wealth theory. And the drain of wealth theory will very simply prove that the British have been looting India. It will take them 100 years to do it. This looting was happening for close to 100 years. But unfortunately, we had an intrinsic faith which did not allow us to see what actually the British were actually doing. So, simple point of the matter is, in the economic realm, the expectation from the British was that as an emerging industrial giant, with the help of their technology, they would develop India into a proper metropole, a proper industrialized society with modern sciences, technology, and capitalist economic organization. The early Indian nationalists were unaware or rather, though they were aware that there are political, psychological, economic disabilities of foreign domination, but they still supported colonial rule because they thought that somehow India will develop. Simple point is they still believed that the British are going to do something. The expectation was after all famines, after all deindustrialization, maybe the result is going to be a very developed Indian subcontinent, a very modern civilization. However, the disillusionment will come in 1860s. By 1860s, it became clear that the, the way India is developing, it is not going forward, but rather regressing. So this slow but sure decision means that the, the basic illusion of development is gone. Maya, Maya is gone. In the sense that simple point is, we believed that British are going to do good things, but by 1860, everybody started to realize the British aren't doing anything generally. And this disillusionment will be confirmed by these four very important men, because they will very systematically create an understanding. Are you getting the reason why after 1860s only we get nationalism and not before it? There is no nationalism before 1860s, because before 1860s we tended to believe in the British. After 1860s, we start believing in the British, and the same people who were supporting the British now became the reason or the leaders who will actually challenge British rule. Are we clear about this? Are you getting? Is this making sense? See, I'm trying to do very simple thing. All is logical. There's nothing where you need to ratify. Simple point is, my question to you was, or to us was, why 1860s only? Why organizations did not come in 1800? And the reason is that before 1860s, there's an intrinsic faith. That intrinsic faith needed to fade away, and that will only fade away because of these four important personalities. So now can I develop the safety, the drain of wealth theory in front of you vis-a-vis what they actually said? Yes? Perfect. Great. So let's understand it. So Dadabhai Naroji, through his text called The Poverty and Un-British Rule in India, he argued about the drain of wealth. He was the first man to say that poverty was not due to internal factors, but due to colonial rule. Materially, the British rule only caused impoverishment, and it was like a knife of sugar, meethi churi. 1/4 of Indian revenue goes out of the country and gets added to the resources of England. Now, this is the interesting point. They tried to quantify it also. How the faith faded away through this text. Because now Dadabhai Naoroji has proved to the Indians that your faith that British are going to develop India, that has gone. That has gone because he literally proves that the past 100 years is a testimony to the fact that they have not developed India but underdeveloped India. Further, R.C. Dutt will argue in the drain theory in his book Economic History of India in 1901, and he will give a very beautiful analogy that the taxes collected here goes up like moisture sucked by the sun, but it does not descend as rain in India, but as rain in another land itself. So he's actually arguing that the taxes get collected from India. So the cloud of taxes is created. Rather than that cloud raining on India itself, it goes to England and then rains. So the moisture, which is the money, is taken from India and is very beautifully taken to different channels to England. G.V. Joshi will argue that the expenditure on railways should be seen as Indian subsidy to British industries. because the money which they push in for railways is to exploit us more. He advocated for reducing high land tax, salt tax, and more than that, favored imposition of income tax and import duties. He also said a lot of money was being pushed into the army. Further, MG Ranade will write an essay in 1899 called the Essay on Indian Economics. He will say that heavy industries and Western education should have been the foundational understanding of our Indian economy, but that did not happen. The simple point of the matter is, why is that their contribution is so important? Because any regime is politically strong as long as people have faith in their moral purpose. The British was the combination of both physical force and moral purpose. But now the economic nationalists undermine the moral foundation of the British rule in India, therefore successfully showing to the world that the British are not here to develop but to underdevelop India. Therefore, there have been different attempts about how much money was taken from India. So, the governor of Bengal, don't have to learn this, do not learn. The the governor of Bengal said that 4.9 million, 4.9 million means 49 lakhs. 49 lakh pounds went out of Bengal in the first 5 years of Diwani. RC Dutt argues that half of total net revenue, which is close to 20 million pounds, was taken away annually every year. Historian Doe says that it is 1.4 million pounds a year. MG Ranade would argue it is 1/3. On the other hand, William Digby, again a historian, says 30 million pounds annually. Dadabhai Naoroji claims 12 million pounds per annum, 1/4 of total revenue. It could be 7 million pounds, 17 million pounds generally, and less than 2% of India's export. Simple point is, Dadabhai Naoroji says that they took a surplus which could be used to develop India. They took a land revenue and impoverished our peasantry. They prevented full-fledged economic development by a capitalist economy, and simply economy, when it is down, employment and income is also down. So the simple point of the matter is, before I go to moderates, what is the concept of the INC? See, the formation of the INC should be seen as a culmination of economic nationalist argument plus the pre-INC associations. They destroy the moral justification of British rule, and they believe in political action. If we bring these two things together, what we get is the formation of INC as pan-Indian body. Now, does this make sense, and can you put this argument in the examination? Why am I doing this? Because I need to tell you why 1885. Why not before 1885? Why not before 1860s? It's a very simple logical argument. The British people still believed until 1860s. After 1867, they stopped believing. So therefore, their orientation also changed. Done? Come on. I told you, multiple small topics, but very interesting. So we have understood the consequences of crown rule. We've understood what is nationalism. We've understood what do you mean by the concept of nationalistic feeling. We've understood the reasons why nationalism is rising. We discussed the pre-INC organizations. We discussed the myth of its origin. We've now discussed two basic building blocks which allowed for the formation of the INC: economic nationalistic critique and the pre-INC associations. Yes? Can I go into moderates? Last discussion for today. Come on, come on. Yes? Okay, perfect. Why it is not before 1860s? Because before 1860s, the middle class intelligentsia believed that the British are developing India. After that, they don't. Okay. What type of questions? I can give you one question if you want. I'll leave you 2 questions. You can practice. The formation of the Indian National Congress was not the fear of the British or a outlet for releasing political pressure, but much more than that. Do you agree? Can you answer this one? What led to the middle class intelligentsia changing? Reading Dadabhai Naoroji's book. Okay. Now, second question. The economic nationalists destroyed an important pillar of British rule in India. Elucidate. Can you write the second question? First question talks about it is the fear of the British would mean safety valve theory. Releasing outlet against safety valve theory. You have to say how it is the culmination of nationalism. And second is basically you have to talk about moral justification, intrinsic faith taken away from economic nationalists. Now you get the type of questions which can come. You have to write their names. G.V. Joshi, Dadabhai Naoroji have to write it. Okay. Economic critiques and faith in middle class over the British led to form. Yes. Yes, you can write that, Shalom. Is there any connection between consequences of 1857 and formation of INC? Technically, Shovik, no. In a way, no. The pillar of justification of colonizing, yes. Second question, you have to talk about the main pillar was the civilizational mission, developing India. Economic nationalists destroyed it. Right? Okay. Sir, can I write date? You write date, but first learn it and then write it. But you'll learn it right now and not write it later. So it's totally your call. I don't care about dates, but at least you should know one date, 1885. Don't leave these things. Okay. Can we start our discussion with regards to moderates? Okay. Now you look at this table. This is the composition of the members who met in the INC in the first 4 years, 1885, 86, 87, 88. And the number was 72 in the first, 434, 607, 1248 by the time we reach Allahabad. But which is the most ubiquitous or most common profession which is coming? Shall you talk about the concept of the 1857 being a rude shock, and then how INC's formation was seen as avoiding an 1857? Lawyers. Lawyers were the single largest group which used to come. But what is common to the three? Lawyer, journalist, doctors. They are a product of modern education. They are a product of modern education. So you see how progressively the faith is evading that. More and more educated Indians started to meet at the INC. But why do we use this word moderate? Why do we use this word moderate or moderates? We call them moderates because of their method. Because of their method. See, between 1885 and 1905, the personalities who dominated the moderates or dominated the INC are personalities such as these. From Bengal, W.C. Banerjee, Raj Bihari Ghosh, Surendranath Banerjee, R.C. Dutt. Gujarat and Maharashtra, Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, very important personality, Justice Ranade. From Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, you have P.R. Naidu, Ananda Charlu, Subramaniam Iyer, Uttar Pradesh, Madan Mohan Malviya, and you had these two Britishers, puppets, Hume and Wedderburn sitting there. Now, the simple point of the matter is that together they are called moderates. Together they are called moderates because they have a very peculiar method. So can I tell you why they are called moderates? Can I discuss the method? Now the method of the moderates is very simple. They have a twofold moderate concept. First, they said that, see, the British are good. It's just that they don't know what is happening in India. So let us do one thing. Let us capture the attention of the British and tell them what is happening. So the methodology of the moderates was, British want to do good. But उन्हें पता ही नहीं. They don't know that what is happening. That our peasants are burning, our crops are burning, people are dying. They don't know. So let's do one thing. Let's bring it to the attention of the British what is happening in India. So there's an innocence, yes, which is called the intrinsic faith in the British. And how will we tell them? Via what is called PPP. Prayer, petition, and constitutional protest. You first make the British understand the issue, and we will then use the three. So they will go to the British and say, please help us. Please, you should not exploit us. I am writing a petition that please help us, please give us positions in the ICS. You are the mighty British. The simple point is that moderates have an intrinsic faith in the British benevolence. That British are good. That is why Dadabhai Naoroji, un-British rule. British are good. British are good people. Good people. They do good, but they don't know about it. So please help us. Constitutional protest. 5 people will go and sit in front of the district magistrate's office. They will again say, please help us. Petition. I don't agree with you. Petition. Like the British actually cared. The simple point is moderates methodology is in a way very limited. So if you look at the concept of moderates, according to Desai, he's a historian, moderates stand for an immature beginning of the nationalistic movement, which will later become complete and mature. But it's because of their methodology, which is why that they're called moderates. The main complaint of the of these men were that you are doing un-British things in India, not knowing that the British are properly British. The fact is that they have faith in the sense of justice, fair play, and honesty and integrity of the British. Too much they are asking from a Britisher. And they said that you have pledged that you will give us our own rule, home rule. So you should give it. The simple point of the matter is all of these men have a faith that the British are not cognizant of their activities. So it was about constitutional agitation, and there was a two-pronged approach. The moderates believed that the British basically wanted to be just to the Indians, but they were not aware of their real conditions. They wanted to save our peasantry, but they don't know what they are doing. So to achieve these ends, a two-pronged approach was there. Create a strong public opinion to arouse consciousness, nationalistic spirit, and educate and unite the people, and further persuade the British government through prayer, petition, and constitutional protest to change things. Now, the point is moderate methodology. We'll talk about the demands later. When we talk about moderate methodology is based on 3 very simple things. Intrinsic faith. British are doing un-British things, but they want to do good things. So let us remind them that they should change, and we will do it through prayer, petition, and protest. This is called reforming colonialism, not rejecting colonialism. Are you getting my point? Why are moderates called moderates? Yes, intrinsic faith means intrinsic belief, internal faith. So they don't want colonialism to go away. They want to reform colonialism. That colonialism should be better, not rejecting colonialism. But now, for a very long time, and even today as of right now, moderates, we'll talk about their demands later. Let's assess the moderate mentality. Are we clear? Prayer, petition, protest. Are we clear? Intrinsic faith. Are we clear the concept of un-British rule? Are we clear who are the moderates? If these 3-4 points are clear, I want to analyze the moderates. We need to now again brainstorm. Can I do that with you? I can? Okay. Now, for a very long time, very, very long time, people have ridiculed the moderates. A lot of you are. That isn't it absurd? Had they lost their mind? Who are they? Moderates are always ridiculed. That समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है. They don't understand colonialism. But the moderates are actually quite smart. The moderates are smart because they know what they're doing. if within the first 10 years of their existence, the INC would have asked for rejecting colonialism, you think the British would have let them survive? Their moderate mentality is not based on their concept of being moderates, is because they cannot be too radical, because if they will be, the British will ban the INC and kill every leader. So rather, moderates are smart and strategic. They only keep demands which look like reforming colonialism, because that way the British will never feel threatened by the INC. And more than that, India was not ready for the extremist phase in 1885. The historical role of the moderates was not please, was to create the foundation on which our Lal, Bal, and Pal could exist. Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Bipin Chandra Pal. The fact of the matter is, extremists, Swadeshi movement, all these things could only exist if the foundation was not laid by the moderates. The moderates allowed the INC to mature in the first 20 years, and actually allow the Indians to also change their mentality. We went from reforming colonialism to rejecting colonialism, and I'll discuss moderates and extremist concept with you before we end. But the point of the matter is, you need to understand the master plan of the moderates. The moderates are not doing it because they don't understand colonialism. Maybe they have an intrinsic conservative streak. Maybe they have an intrinsic faith. The moderates are the boiling phase. When you have to make rice, you have to boil water. Rice put into cold water will never make you good rice. They are the slow burner which allow for the Indian nationalistic pot to boil. And therein, when people will say boycott, then it will be possible. So please, in the examination, if they ask you what was the role or what was their historical importance, the historical importance of their methodology was to remain under radar, was to act. Still, the British hated the INC quite a lot, because the INC was sent a message from the Dufferin, that you only take social issues, no political issues. But the INC did not agree. So Dufferin and all actually used to ridicule the INC quite a lot. But the basic point was, you can't be an extremist first. Everybody has a moderate phase. And I can give you a very simple example also. Very simple example. Am I making sense? Is this argument of foundational understanding of nationalism making sense? I'll give a very simple example. And it pertains to you only. It pertains to you only. You want a new phone. You want a new phone? You will first be a moderate. Please, messages to your parents for money. Please, I'll do anything you say. Wash the utensils also. Take out the trash also. Moderates. You have an intrinsic faith that because if you will be, your parents don't know that you need a new phone. So if you will make them cognizant of the need for the phone, maybe they will give you a phone. So please. But you are building up to something bigger. You will go through your moderate phase. And then what will happen is that once everything is ready, you will go become an extremist. Then they will ask you to give the utensils, throw it away, stop helping them, listen and not listen only. You will thereafter start to protest in a different way altogether. You will say, I'll not do anything only. This is human nature. We all start at moderates. Even Gandhi had a moderate phase. We cannot be extremists. You can't be that you say to your parents, I want a phone, and you take your phone and break it in front of them. Can't be an extremist in the front only, right? That I won't sleep, I will jump off a bridge if you don't give me a phone. That is an extremist concept. You have to be a moderate first, then to become an extremist. Make sense, everybody? Meaning, please understand one thing. Extremists can't exist without the moderates. You're getting my point? Stop ridiculing their actions. Stop making a mockery of these leaders, because they are much, much, much smarter than what we actually think they are. They know that India is not ready. So they rather are making India ready whilst they play this long game of constitutional protest. Right? So when we look at their demands, you will see that they're very standard demands. Again, do not learn. Do not learn. But let's see their demands. Abolition of Indian Council because it prevented Secretary of State from working for Indian welfare. So they said that the problem is not the Secretary of State, but his 15 members. A new member in the Viceroy's Executive Council, but Indian. Increased participation in provincial and central legislature. 50% of elected representatives from local bodies, Chamber of Commerce and universities. New council for Northwestern Frontier Province and Punjab. 2 new provinces were being argued for. The budget should be referred to legislature. Discussion should be there, voting should be there. Right to appeal to the standing committee of House of Commons against the government of India. So they're saying, we will go against you and say to the parliament that the Secretary of State is corrupt. So these are called constitutional demands. They want to reform colonialism. Thereafter, their main demand was actually this, which is civil services examination reform. Simultaneous examination in both India and London, raising the maximum age to 23 and dropping this concept of London-based examination because it will stop the drain of money. The first examination which is going to happen in simultaneous exam is only 1924. Thereafter, Indianization of Indian civil services would decrease racism and make administration more responsible and responsive. Very little relief was given. Separate examination will start only from 1922. First examination will be taken in 1924. But it was recommended in 1922. Thereafter, they also wanted to decrease the military expenditure, wherein Indian Army was used in the British. Indian Army was being used in Africa and Asia. So can use them there, but not too far away. Indians should be taken into the army as volunteers, not as full-time soldiers. The British agreed to share a small fraction of the military expenditure. The British should think about how the Bengal and Awadh army suffered because of 1857. And basically, the concept of bhatta made no sense because of the very low exchange rate at which they used to give us the bhatta itself. No, it's 19. It says 1922, not 1992. Thereafter, what would be the basic contribution of the moderates? Passing of the Indian Council Act 1892, which was highly unsatisfactory. And now the moderates will show to India that moderate methodology doesn't work because 1892 was an eyewash. This is the first thing we do tomorrow. What is their weakness? Did not believe in the masses, had no extremist approach, lack of pan-Indian organization, neglect of youth and women, urban-centric upper caste character, zamindars, neglected the rural masses itself. So, very simply, the economic theory generated anger, but the moderates could not convert it. Most of them still had an intrinsic faith in British rule. Therefore, prayer, petition, and protest was their way of doing it. Failed to recognize the inherent contradiction between colonization and constitutionalism, that basically constitutional reform will do nothing, colonialism will always win. And high caste Hindu character, except for Badruddin Taibji, also was not helping. Simple point is, the INC was not ready to become extremist, and even India was not ready to have an extremist outlook. Are we clear with regards to moderate politics? Okay. Now, there are 3-4 things which I need to talk to you about, and then you can leave. First things first, we have to understand tomorrow. First thing, we'll do what is called the Indian Council Acts 1861 and 1892, because before the INC formation and after the INC formation, there are two Council Acts: Indian Council Act 1861, Indian Council Act 1892. Second is, once we've discussed that, we'll go into Curzon's politics and we'll discuss the partition of Bengal, because the partition of Bengal is seen as the starting point of extremist politics in 1905. We'll discuss Swadeshi movement features and then discuss moderates versus extremist tussle, which is going to happen between 1905, 6 and 7, and we'll end with the Surat split in 1907, where moderates and extremists will split and INC will expel the extremists itself. We will thereafter pivot towards the concept of the Gandhian politics, but surely by Monday, Tuesday, we'll be at Gandhi. So we'll cover the period between 1885 to 1905, then 1905 to 1907. So Morley Minto reforms on Friday, maybe tomorrow I'll see, but tomorrow we start with the concept of the council acts, and then go into moderate extremist politics, and thereafter the concept of simply Swadeshi movement. Is this clear? Before you leave, whatever we've done today, what is nationalism? Nationalism reasons, consequences, 1858 Act, economic critique, safety valve theory, moderates. All of this made sense. I will give you Congress sessions and their presidents in the end. Don't worry about that. Now, there's no class on 1st May. Yes, May Day there's no class. Monday there's no class. Rather, Tuesday we'll have class. So we have done multiple small things. I hope all of these things make sense together. Yes, we started with 1858. Then we moved to what is nationalism. Then we moved to reasons of nationalism. Then the safety valve theory. Then economic nationalists. Then moderates. Yes. Safety valve theory, in short, was a conspiracy. INC was a conspiracy of Dufferin and you. Monday's first, I think. Yeah, Monday's first, right? Yeah. May Day, it's called May Day. May Day is a national holiday. Okay. Labor Day. Okay, if you don't have a question, thank you so much. Thank you, Pujba. That is the basic endeavor here. Take care. Have a productive day. I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Now we are going into the business end. Swadeshi movement, a lot of interesting things which will happen. So thank you. Take care. Bye bye. If you don't have a question, you can leave the session. If you have, you can ask me here. But as I said, don't complicate it. Multiple topics done. I hope all of them made sense to you generally. Okay. Kiru, you can say that if you want to say. Bose when, sir. Bose when. You tell me when does INA and all is 9. Bose and all. Subhash Chandra Bose. Don't call him Bose like that. Subhash Chandra Bose, and the discussion with regards to that we will discuss 1930s and all. We still have time with regards to that. Why the moderates have faith in British? Do they like British or not? Silma, they don't have a choice. They have to take that approach in the historical context in which they were there. How can we approach exam in case of extremist moderates? Moderates made the base for the extremists. That's it. Sir, why don't they ban INC after Hume's death? They will multiple times do that, but see, the British also have to do a drama that they are here for self-government. So they can't do that. What type of questions from pre-INC should be most probably prelims oriented? Their location or their chronological order? Can we say that moderates help INC to develop deep roots in India? Sure. The Mithun, it will take 3 to 4 days to get evaluated answers. Well, Shreya, thank you for that. Yes, Larin, I'll be giving you timelines from tomorrow for next week once I'm covering certain areas. Don't worry. Tomorrow itself we'll do timelines. Hariom, tell her to revise and increase the what we call as basic knowledge, residual knowledge. Saksham, previous year questions tomorrow. How to improve grammar, grammatical errors? Write. The more you write, the better you will become. Pulkit will talk about that. Sneha, what do you mean by that? Is the PPT sufficient for revision? Yes. Rapid fire revision. Want to ask people, make rapid fire revision. What is rapid fire revision? They did Mahima. We'll talk about that. But once circulated, it was difficult. Bipin Chandra Pal is Lal Bal Pal. Pal of that. Okay. Bhardwaj, I told you that. 250 words, Devi, matters on your handwriting. How many words, how many pages it is. Shalu, the concept of moderates itself is based on that faith moving away or fading away. Rahul, I said, what do you mean by rapid fire revision? You're asking me to do rapid fire revision. Rapid fire questions, I understand. What is rapid fire revision? You don't need to count the words. You can see how many, just by looking at a question, you can see actually how many words it is. A 150 word answer looks like a 150 word answer. Right now, don't do that. First, write. First, learn to write. Then talk about words. Don't worry about that in that sense. Very good, Hariom. Perfect. See, examiner is not going to sit and count each and every word. But a 250 word answer, if 500 words is written, you can see it is 500. Shruti, we are already doing that. Such answer writing techniques I will discuss tomorrow when I'll discuss the mains questions with you. Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow. The SME is there for the next half an hour. Thank you. Take care and bye-bye.